Imagine opening your eyes not to the sound of an alarm, but to the echo of your own mortality. Not in a grim, fear-inducing way, but with a sharp, electrifying awareness. You could have died in your sleep last night. You didn't. You're still here, and whether you deserve this new day or not, life has handed it to you. One more chance, one more breath, one more shot at getting it right. Titus Florian, a former corporate strategist turned philosopher in hiding, once said as he stood, facing the sun rising over Lake Tahoe, each dawn is a test, not of what you can do, but of who you are willing to become. He wasn't exaggerating. It was the morning after he nearly drowned, during a silent solo retreat, an accident that changed his life. That morning, dripping wet and breathless, on the shore, he promised himself he'd never wake up thoughtlessly again. Most people won't have a near-death moment to shake them awake. So instead, they sleepwalk through their mornings. They jolt into consciousness with their hearts racing, check emails before they've even touched the floor, and pour caffeine into their mouths hoping it will mask the emptiness they feel inside. Then they wonder why life feels like it's always slipping through their fingers. But the truth, the Stoics already warned us, if you start the day without intention, you've already lost the battle. You've let the world hijack your peace before you've even said good morning to yourself. In the Stoic tradition, mornings are sacred. They are not warm-ups. They are not throwaways. They are not background noise to be drowned in news and notifications. They are the origin point, the forge where the blade of your character is either sharpened or dulled. Marcus Aurelius would rise before the sun. He wasn't grinding. He wasn't building an empire. He was meditating on his death, on his faults, on the man he wanted to be. He was stripping away illusion before the day had a chance to feed it to him. That's why he wrote, "When you rise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." And now, more than ever, we need to remember that. In a world that's louder, faster, and more demanding than ever, the way we begin our day determines whether we're reacting or responding, chasing or leading, surviving or becoming. So the real question isn't what time should I wake up, or what's the best productivity hack. The real question is, what kind of soul do I want to bring into this world today? Because you are not just waking up to emails and tasks, you are waking up to your own existence. You are stepping into a battlefield where your thoughts, emotions, fears, and ambitions will clash all day long. And the man or woman you choose to be in that first quiet moment before the noise sets the tone for every word, every decision, every encounter that follows. This is what we explore today, the hidden power of the first hour and 7 Stoic actions you can take each morning to transform not just your schedule but your soul. Before we dive deeper, if this message speaks to you, if it wakes something up inside you, please hit that subscribe button. It gives us the fuel to keep creating content like this. And it tells the algorithm that Stoic wisdom still matters, that the ancient teachings of resilience, presence, and purpose deserve a seat in the modern world. Now, let me ask you something, simple but powerful. It's a quick test of your current mindset. When your alarm rings tomorrow morning, what will be your first thought? A, I have to get up. B, I get to wake up. Type your answer or B in the comments. No explanations, just honesty. Let's see how many of us are truly ready to live like this day could be our last and best. Aria Constantine never started her day with noise. While most people reach for their phones, she reached for silence. Living on the edge of Santorini's cliffs, where the sea spoke in ancient rhythms, Aria had come to understand that real power wasn't in productivity but in presence. Before the first hint of sunlight kissed the white walls of her home, she would step barefoot onto the stone terrace and sit. No music, no words, just the wind brushing her skin, the sea breathing in the distance, and her own heartbeat reminding her, you're here, and you're alive. It wasn't always like this. Years ago, Aria was a rising executive in London, known for her speed and sharpness, but it was her very speed that unraveled her panic attacks, burnout, the sense that she was living everyone's life but her own. That's when she left, not to run away, but to slow down, to remember. Now, every morning, she practices what she calls the internal reset, a Stoic-inspired meditation that doesn't aim to escape reality, but to meet it fully. In Stoicism, Stillness is more than peace, it's preparation. Marcus Aurelius, while commanding armies, still carved out time to sit with his thoughts, not to empty his mind, but to examine it. What fears are present? What temptations are lurking? What illusions need to be cleared before stepping into the day? Modern life doesn't reward that kind of pause, it rewards urgency. But the Stoics knew, if you don't meet yourself in silence first, the world will tell you who you are before you have a chance to decide. This is why meditation matters, not for spiritual achievement, not even for stress reduction, though those may follow. It matters because the ability to sit still and observe your own mind is the foundation of resilience. For Aria, some mornings are quiet and peaceful, others are chaotic. Thoughts rush in like a storm, to-do lists, doubts, regrets. But instead of fighting them, she watches, she breathes, she reminds herself, these are not me. These are just passing clouds. You don't need to live on a cliff. To experience this, you don't need to be an expert. You only need 5 minutes. Sit somewhere quiet. Close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose. Feel your lungs expand. Feel your thoughts rise. Let them be. And as they pass, keep breathing. And if sitting still isn't for you, there's another way, walking meditation. The Stoics often took long walks on the ancient Roman roads, along rivers, through gardens. You can do the same. 10 minutes. No phone, no distractions. Just walk and notice. Notice the world. Notice your breath. Notice the pull to distract yourself and resist it. That resistance is where the growth happens. Stillness, contrary to popular belief, is not passive. It's an active return to center. It's the choice to begin your day not as a reactor, but as a creator. Some days, Aria says nothing at all before noon, not out of rudeness, but out of reverence. She knows her words have more power when they are born from silence. She doesn't rush to fill the space. She listens, first to herself, then to others. And that's the heart of Stoic meditation. It's not about tuning out the world, it's about tuning in to what matters most. It's the discipline of self-examination, the art of catching yourself before habit or impulse takes the reins. Most people carry noise with them like armor. Podcasts in the shower, news at breakfast, emails in bed. But what they don't realize is that this constant stream doesn't protect them, it drowns them. Silence isn't a luxury, it's your birthright. And if you dare to reclaim it, even just for a few moments each morning, you'll start to feel the difference. You'll speak slower, choose better, act with purpose. So tomorrow morning, before you unlock your phone, unlock your breath. Before you scroll, sit. And in that quiet space, ask yourself, who am I beneath the noise? The answer won't come all at once, but piece by piece, day by day, it will build something unshakable inside you, a fortress the world cannot breach. That's the promise of silence. That's the power of starting your day from within. Every morning, just as the sky over Austin, Texas begins to fade from indigo to gold, Damon re-steps onto his porch with a worn leather journal and a pen that feels more like a compass than a tool. While the world rushes toward noise, Damon walks toward himself. No phone, no distractions, only the quiet hum of waking nature and the crackle of his thoughts spilling onto paper. Damon isn't trying to write anything profound. He's not crafting essays or planning a memoir. He's doing something far more intimate, having a conversation with his own soul before the world has a chance to interrupt. This to him is journaling, not a routine, but a ritual, a mirror, a map, a confession, a home. Long before he embraced this practice, Damon had lost himself. He was building a company that was growing fast, but so was his anxiety. He couldn't sleep, his mind never stopped spinning. Success, it turned out, had a cost he hadn't expected, himself. Then one sleepless morning, he stumbled across a passage from Marcus Aurelius, written not to others, but to himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That day, Damon bought a blank notebook, and for the first time in years, he sat down and listened to himself. He started simply, with 3 questions. What did I fear yesterday? Who did I love well? What must I surrender today? At first, the answers came in fragments, scribbled, awkward truths. But soon, the words flowed. He began to see patterns, moments where he reacted instead of responded, where he avoided hard truths, where he showed up half-heartedly. But alongside those patterns, something else emerged, a deeper clarity, a sense of intention, a quiet but unmistakable strength. Journaling in the Stoic tradition isn't about documenting your life, it's about examining it. It's about filtering out the noise and asking, am I becoming who I said I'd be? The pages become a space where your ego can't hide, where excuses fall flat, and where your highest self is invited to speak. Damon added another layer to his practice. Once a week, he'd write a letter to himself, not the man he was that day, but the version of him 10 years younger or 10 years older. He'd ask questions like, what would you be proud of me for? Or what mistake do you hope I've outgrown? These letters, he says, changed his life. They gave him perspective. They reminded him that time is fleeting, that he's both a continuation and a beginning. There's something radical about being honest on a blank page. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't perform, it reveals, and when done consistently, it refines. That's the Stoic way, not to hide from your flaws, but to study them until they lose their power. Some mornings, Damon writes about his fears, other mornings, about gratitude. He'll list tiny things: the scent of cedar, the smile from a stranger, the strength it took not to snap in traffic. These aren't trivial, they're evidence. Evidence that even in chaos, beauty exists, that even in struggle, grace can be found. Science backs him up. Studies show journaling can reduce stress, increase mental clarity, and improve decision-making. But Damon doesn't care about the data. He cares about how he feels when he writes, more grounded, more honest, more real. He says it's not about writing the right thing, it's about writing the true thing. For anyone beginning this journey, Damon offers this: start small. One sentence, one question, one moment you want to understand better. Don't judge it, don't edit it, just write it down. You're not trying to impress anyone, you're trying to meet yourself, and over time, those pages will become a kind of blueprint, not of who you are, but of who you're becoming. Not of perfection, but of presence. Damon's journal is now filled with hundreds of pages, some joyful, some painful, all deeply human. When he flips through them, he doesn't see a man who has it all figured out. He sees a man who chose day after day to show up for himself, to be curious, to be honest, to be awake. That is the power of morning journaling, not as a task to complete, but as a sacred act of remembering who you are before the world tries to tell you otherwise. Each morning before the sun rises above the Colorado Rockies, Helena skylights a single candle on the windowsill of her small cabin. In the still darkness, she opens a wooden box she carved herself and pulls out a small card. On it, one word: patience. That's today's virtue. Tomorrow it might be courage, or temperance, or compassion. But this morning, it's patience, and that one word will shape everything she chooses, says, and allows. Helena wasn't always this grounded. A few years ago, she was a professional climber at the height of her career, conquering cliff faces and magazine covers alike. But the more she achieved, the more hollow she felt. Goals had become her gods, and no matter how many she checked off, the finish line kept moving. She was always performing, always pushing, always running from some silence she couldn't name. Then came the fall, a snapped anchor, a fractured rib, months of recovery. In the quiet of her forced stillness, she found something unexpected: space to breathe and space to think. She began studying Stoicism, not as a philosophy, but as a way to rebuild herself. What she discovered was simple, yet radical. The Stoics didn't obsess over outcomes. They didn't measure life by trophies or applause. They measured it by virtue, by how you show up when no one's watching, by how you act when everything's at stake. That's when she created her morning ritual, the Virtue Compass. Each morning, after her meditation and journaling, she draws a card and reads the definition aloud. Then she asks, what would it look like to live this virtue fully today? She sits with the question, lets it settle. Sometimes the answer is clear, other times it's a mystery that unfolds throughout the day. This practice changed her life. It reminded her that what matters isn't how far you climb, but how honestly you move. That intention, not ambition, is the true north. Helena also began introducing small acts of discomfort into her mornings. She called them sacred frictions. At first, it was taking cold showers not to be trendy, but to train her will. She'd stand under the icy stream and whisper, "I can endure more than I think." Later, it became walking uphill before breakfast, barefoot in the frost, not as punishment, but as a reminder. Comfort is not the goal, character is. These moments of chosen discomfort rewired something in her. They made her less reactive, more steady. She began to see difficulty not as an obstacle but as a forge. Every struggle was a chance to live the virtue she'd chosen that morning. If her word was patience and someone cut her off in traffic, there was her practice. If her word was courage and fear rose in her chest before a big conversation, that was the invitation. Living this way doesn't mean she always succeeds. She fails often, but that's not the point. The point is showing up each morning with an intention rooted in virtue, and letting that intention guide the day like a compass, not perfectly, but purposefully. There's something deeply liberating about this shift. In a culture obsessed with goals, with visible success and measurable results, setting intentions brings you back to your humanity. You begin to ask different questions. Instead of "What did I get done today?" you ask, "How did I show up?" Instead of "Did I win?" you ask, "Did I honor what I believe in?" Helena's story is not about abandoning ambition. It's about reclaiming agency. She still climbs, still sets goals, but now those goals are anchored in who she is, not who the world wants her to be. They are extensions of her values, not replacements for them. And that's the Stoic way. You can't control the outcomes. You can't control the world. But you can control how you respond. You can choose who you become in the process. That choice begins each morning with silence, a word, and a single question. Who do I intend to be today? That's not a small question. It's everything. Because the way you answer it consistently, courageously becomes your life. In the stillness of the Montana hills, where the wind speaks louder than traffic and time moves like river stones underwater, Elias Monroe starts each day with a ritual, as steady as the land beneath him. He pours a black coffee into a tin mug, steps onto his cabin's porch, and opens a weathered copy of Letters to Lucilius. He doesn't read to consume. He reads to remember. Elias is a former soldier. He's seen things he doesn't speak of. He's buried brothers, lost years to chaos, and returned home, not as a hero but as a man trying to rebuild a soul fractured by noise. What saved him wasn't therapy, though that helped. It wasn't medication, though that steadied him. It was a line from Seneca, read by accident. In a waiting room on a cold day, fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. That sentence hit him like a bullet of truth. And in that moment, Elias made a decision. He would no longer resist what life handed him. He would learn to walk with it, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. He began reading Stoic texts not for philosophy, but for survival. He underlined phrases like lifelines. He wrote them on scrapwood and nailed them to the walls of his cabin. Over time, that became his wisdom board, a rotating panel where quotes from ancient minds remind him how to live in a modern world, not louder, not faster, but truer. Each morning, Elias reads just one passage. He doesn't rush. He reads it, like a prayer, slowly, as if the words were sacred, not because they came from some religion, but because they came from hard-earned clarity. Then he reflects, what does this mean for me today? Where does it touch my life right now? In this body, with this past, that's where the transformation happens. Not in the reading, but in the reflecting. It's one thing to admire Stoicism from afar. It's another to hold it like a mirror and see your flaws, your fears, your ego staring back. But Elias doesn't stop there. His mornings also include a deeper, more radical practice, Amor Fati, the love of fate. Not acceptance, not tolerance, love. A choice to embrace every twist in the road as necessary, even sacred. He started small. Rain on the day of a long-awaited hike. Amor Fati, he whispered. A missed call that led to a broken deal. Amor Fati. The words became more than a mantra. They became armor, not to protect him from pain, but to walk into it willingly. Years ago, when a fire destroyed half of his property, including his journals, his father's coat, and everything he thought made that cabin home, Elias stood in the ash and felt something strange. Not anger, not grief, But gratitude, it stripped me down, he said. But it also showed me what I never needed. That moment cemented Amor Fati as more than an idea. It became a lifestyle. Now, each morning, Elias doesn't just prepare for success. He prepares for setbacks. He imagines everything going wrong, delays, disagreements, disappointment, and he welcomes it all. Not with bitterness, but with trust. Trust that there is no wasted moment in the life of someone who chooses to grow. And he does grow. Not upward like ambition, but inward like roots. His strength isn't loud, it's quiet. It's in the way he listens more than he speaks, in the way he forgives faster, in the way he smiles, even when the day unfolds like a storm. The Stoics didn't teach us to love life only when it goes our way. They taught us to love life, period. To find meaning in the mess, to make beauty from the bruises. Elias lives this truth every morning, not because it's easy, but because it's real. He feeds his mind not with news or noise, but with wisdom. He shapes his soul not with fantasy, but with the fierce honesty of men who dared to write about suffering and virtue in the same breath. That's the invitation Stoicism offers each of us, not to escape fate, but to dance with it, to read something timeless and ask, what does this say about who I want to be right now, every day? Elias answers that question, not in words, but in how he walks, how he loves, how he breathes in the cold Montana air and whispers, without flinching, this too, I welcome. There comes a moment, usually in the quiet just before dawn, when life offers you a choice, not dramatic, not loud, but deeply important. It's the choice to move through your morning on autopilot, reacting to the world before you've remembered who you are, or to step into the day with intention, presence, and inner alignment. That moment, though it lasts only seconds, holds the weight of everything that follows. By now, you've walked with Titus through the sacred reckoning of waking up. You've sat with Aria in the soft silence of meditation. You've witnessed Damon pour his soul into the pages of self-discovery. You've watched Helena stand in the cold and choose virtue over vanity. You've heard Elias whisper to the winds of Montana that even pain deserves love, but their routines aren't checklists for you to copy. They're invitations, echoes of a deeper call to craft a morning practice that belongs to you, not borrowed, not forced, but born from the core of your own values and longing. A morning philosophy isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are becoming in the process. It's not a performance, it's a practice, one rooted in honesty, discipline, and the sacred understanding that how you begin determines how you meet everything that follows. So where do you start? You start by listening, before the sun rises, before the emails come in, before anyone else claims your time or attention. You sit in the space between sleep and wakefulness and ask the most Stoic question of all. What is in my control today? That question alone can shape your entire life. Maybe for you, the answer begins in stillness. 5 minutes of breath, eyes closed, surrendering the mind's spinning to something quieter. Or maybe it begins in motion, a walk through your neighborhood, the feel of air on your skin, the rhythm of your steps syncing with your heartbeat. You might journal like Damon, or speak your thoughts aloud like prayers. You might pick a virtue like Helena and carry it like a compass, letting it guide how you speak, how you drive, how you respond to the things that test you. Perhaps you read a single sentence from Marcus Aurelius and let it echo inside you all day. Or maybe, like Elias, you begin with a quiet surrender to fate, not resignation, but reverence. You look at the unknown ahead and say, whatever comes, I will meet it fully. There's no perfect routine, no ultimate combination of habits. The only thing that matters is that your practice is real, that it grounds you, that it humbles you, that it prepares you not for ease, but for life. Because life will come, fast, complicated, beautiful and brutal. It won't wait for you to feel ready. That's why your mornings matter. They're your training ground, your foundation, your silent commitment to live with intention in a world built for distraction. Crafting your own morning philosophy isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the noise, before the hurry, before the fear. It's about remembering that inside you, there is already enough wisdom, enough clarity, enough strength to face the day if you'll just give it space to rise. So let this be your moment. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Start with one act. of courage, one breath of awareness, one step toward the person you want to be. And as you craft your morning philosophy, let it evolve. Let it grow with you. Some seasons you may need more silence. Other seasons, more movement. There will be days you fail, days you forget. That's okay. The Stoics never promised perfection. They only promised the possibility of virtue one choice at a time. And every morning, the choice begins again. The sun will rise. The world will pull. The chaos will knock. But you will already be centered, already grounded, already awake. Not because you followed someone else's path, but because you built your own. And in that building, in that sacred daily beginning, you didn't just change your morning, you changed your life. When we trace the quiet thread, connecting each of these stories, Titus standing at the edge of Lake Tahoe, Aria listening to the wind in Santorini, Damon writing under the amber skies of Austin, Helena choosing discipline over comfort in the Colorado mountains, Elias whispering to fate in the solitude of Montana. We begin to see that this is more than a collection of habits. This is a philosophy in motion, a living, breathing way of being. These aren't superhumans. They're people who made a simple but radical decision to stop drifting and start living on purpose. What unites them isn't what they do, it's how they do it. With reverence, with integrity, with a deep awareness that the most important battles we fight are the ones no one sees. In the early hours, before emails, before obligations, before noise, they chose to meet themselves. Not the polished version, not the one for public display, but the raw, unfiltered, fully human self. And they chose to shape that self with silence, with virtue, with courage, with love. Titus didn't just reflect on life's impermanence, he lived each day as a sacred opportunity. Aria didn't meditate to escape, but to reconnect. Damon didn't journal to impress, but to understand. Helena didn't seek comfort, she sought character. And Elias, perhaps most beautifully, didn't just accept his fate, he fell in love with it. Each of them crafted a morning that wasn't about perfection, it was about presence. Each act, however small, was an act of rebellion against numbness, against distraction, against the illusion that life is something that happens later. They knew the truth, life is happening now, and how you start your day is how you show up for that truth. The deeper lesson: Stoicism isn't ancient history, it's a timeless companion. It doesn't demand that you renounce the world, but that you return to yourself within it. It asks, what can you control? What kind of person do you want to be, even when life doesn't go your way? And most importantly, are you willing to start again every morning with humility, clarity, and fierce intention? You don't need a cabin in the woods. You don't need the perfect sunrise or a handwritten scroll. All you need is willingness. 5 minutes of honesty, one breath of stillness, one virtue to carry. That's where it begins. So the invitation is yours now. Will you let the world decide your day for you? Or will you choose to meet the morning with purpose, like Titus, Aria, Damon, Helena, and Elias? Your morning doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be yours. And maybe, just maybe, that's where everything changes. Here's a quick question for you. Be honest, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Reach for my phone up, reflect, and set an intention. Drop your answer or B in the comments. No explanation needed, just your truth. Now we'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite way to start the day? What part of this story resonated with you most? Comment below and let's build a community of people who are learning, growing, and rising together. And if this message stirred something inside you, if you felt seen, challenged, or inspired, go ahead and subscribe. Your support helps us keep creating more content like this. It keeps this channel alive, and more importantly, it tells the world that there's a better way to live, starting with one powerful morning at a time.